faces close, but some never rest. When silence screams, we listen. This is dead and wrong.
Well, hello there. I'm Liz.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Dead and Wrong, your weekly podcast about all things dead. People, ghosts, animals, all of it. If it involves the dead, we will cover it. And today, we actually have nothing to chat about. So we're just going to get right into the episode.
How do you know I don't have anything to chat about?
Do you? Do you have something to say, Sam?
No, I don't. But, don't assume.
I didn't think so. Dead and Wrong presents episode 26, Brian Stephen Smith, The Memory Card Murders.
Interesting name.
You'll find out very quickly. It is September 30th, 2019 in Anchorage, Alaska. Yes, we are doing a new state, cold north. Anchorage Police Department received a call that would open up an investigation they never saw coming. A woman, unnamed at the time, contacted the police stating she found an SD card that had contained horrifying footage and photographs of a woman being raped, strangled, and then beaten until she died.
Dang.
The police didn't know what to think about when they first heard this, but when she said, I'm actually going to turn in this SD card, they didn't see any reason to at least look into it, see what was on this SD card to see if she was telling the truth or not. After showing up to the police station, the police pulled the woman into an interview room to figure out what was going on. While talking with her, they learned that her name was Valerie Kassler, and she was a sex worker, which at this point in time is illegal. And looking into her past, they learned that she actually had a very long criminal history of theft, assault, prostitution, and other petty crimes. So at first, when talking to her and they said, how'd you come across this SD card? She explained that she found it on the streets and decided to take a look at what was on it. But something tipped off the police and they didn't really think she was being honest. So they kind of just talked to her until she admitted what really happened. So Valerie admitted that she had been, quote unquote, working with a man who had been driving a black pickup truck.
She was working. Why are we
working.
quoting? She was working. She's working it.
Working them hips.
Dang.
I mean, if it's in a black pickup truck. So this man left her alone for a few moments. I think he just ran into like a gas station. And she began digging through his center console. Well,
she nosy.
She found a burner phone or a phone that he hadn't been originally using and stole it. Once she was back in her own home, so after she was done working, he hadn't noticed that she stole from him. She decided to go through the phone and found the footage and the photos of what she had described to the police. She felt horrible for the woman. Obviously knew that she couldn't just not say anything. And she decided that, okay, I need to turn this in. But she didn't want to give up the phone. So she stole an SD card from a grocery store, transferred everything onto it, and labeled it as the homicide at Midtown Marriott before she called the police and turned it over.
I mean, that's a great name.
It is. I just find it funny that she stole a phone, found the stuff, but didn't want to give up the phone, so she stole an SD card.
Dude, phones are expensive.
Apparently she needs to work harder.
Hey.
Maybe not get caught so much, so that she doesn't have to pay fines. So police reviewed the footage on this card, and they found 39 different photos and 12 different videos, all showing a bruised and bloodied woman next to a bed on the floor. Her face had been so badly beaten in these images and videos, they couldn't even recognize who she was. Like, they could have seen a photo and would never have been able to put two and two together.
That's sad.
Now, the man in the video, he was talking a lot, and they were able to clearly hear what he said. At one point, he literally told this woman that she was not going to leave the hotel alive and that he was going to be the one to kill her.
It's horrible.
The police had to watch the videos of this woman as she struggled to breathe while being strangled until she died. No one wants to, but obviously as investigators and police, we have to watch these things all the way through because we can't miss anything. And they pointed out some of the things that were said in the video. These are things he's saying to her. He goes, "In my movies, everybody always dies. What are my followers going to think of me? People need to know when they are being serial killed." Apparently, he thought people were watching these videos. I don't know.
Well, he probably was posting them on, like, the Black Web.
Mm-hmm. He also said things like, "Hit the like button. I'm trying to make a movie." And near the end, the murder was taking the longest ever. He literally commented that she took too long to die. After the woman passes, he looks at her and asks her dead body if she realizes that he still needed to dispose of her body.
So he's talking to her like she's alive? Oh.
So, watching these videos and hearing the man speak for the videos, believe it or not, the police actually came up with a potential suspect pretty quickly. And it wasn't because it was someone they dealt often with, but rather, the man had a very specific and strong accent, specifically a South African accent.
Oh.
And there was only one person living in the area that they knew of who was native from South Africa. And this was 49-year-old Brian Stephen Smith. Brian,
I was going to say, like, what kind of South African accent? Was it, like, the British kind? Or was
they
it,
just
like...
said a South African accent.
There's, like, different kinds, but okay.
I mean, compared to Alaska, though, you're going to stand out.
They kind of sound Australian or British in some of those parts. That's why I'm trying to,
No.
like...
Well, the police just said his accent really stood out, and they only knew one person that sounded like that.
Okay.
And that was Brian. So Brian was born on March 23rd, 1971 in Queenstown, South Africa. I learned that this is now called Komani. It's no longer known as Queenstown. His father died while he was still very young, and growing up, he was known to be quiet and standoffish. Once he graduated from high school, he enlisted in the military, would serve like 2 years, and then would leave South Africa in 2013 and move to Alaska. The crazy part of him leaving is that he would find online forums that had posts regarding his home country, and he would respond to these with very strong racial undertones. He was racist to his own people.
Oh.
I do want to point out, Brian is white, even though obviously you can be white and from South Africa. But
he's probably
he was racist towards the Black community of South Africa. Even though he at one point, he mentions how he grew up in a heavily Black community.
Yeah, that area is really interesting on how, their population became to be populated with British settlers.
Yeah. So at one point, an online forum was found by Brian, and on this forum, someone asked, "Do white people assume all Black people are thieves?"
No.
And Brian responds with, "White people do not assume this. Everyone assumes this when they look at police crime statistics. Everywhere in the world go, there is an immediate increase in crime. It is a statistical fact that Blacks are plus or minus 600% more prone to breaking the law than whites."
That's what Brian said.
Yeah, the guy who's murdering people. There are no undertones to that response. He's racist. He is very clearly racist.
He's wrong.
Yeah, on top of that, depending on where you look, if you go to China, clearly they're going to have a higher crime rate of Chinese people because Chinese are the main population there. So obviously, their numbers are going to be higher than all the whites or higher than all people who are Black because there's more of them.
Yeah, but even here in the US, like, you can be in one neighborhood where the people who are doing most of the stealing are whites or Hispanics.
It also depends on like what the area has percentage-wise of race, because obviously, if your highest percentage is whites are going to have the more crime statistics because there's more of them. And you can go to an area where the main race that's living there are Black people, and obviously their crime rates are going to look higher because there's more of them in the area.
Yeah, there's more of the population. Doesn't mean they're all bad. This guy's an idiot.
Well, obviously.
Guy's an idiot.
So we moved to Alaska in 2013, and in 2014, Brian would marry his now wife, Stephanie Bisland. According to Stephanie, this part makes me laugh. So they first met online through the games in February of 2013. And then in July of that same year, Brian would propose. At this point, they still haven't met each other in person.
Okay, so he proposed online.
Yes, he proposed to her online.
All right.
In August, same year, Stephanie goes to South Africa to meet Brian in person. On March 31st, 2014, Brian changed his Facebook status to show he officially moved to Anchorage, Alaska. Stephanie and Brian officially tied the knot on May 17th of 2014, starting their married life together. After this, they moved into a quiet, woodsy cul-de-sac in the Geneva Woods subdivision in Midtown Anchorage. Both of their Facebook profiles showed a very happy couple. Their friends and neighbors noted how Stephanie was seen outside a lot, working on her gardens, and she was very friendly. People loved talking to her, but they didn't really see Brian that often.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And people said, like, when they did have few interactions, there was nothing off-putting. And then there's also the fact that while he lived in Alaska, he didn't have any kind of criminal record. He didn't even really have any criminal record in South Africa. While living in Alaska, Brian worked quite a few jobs. This included the Alaska Tire Service, Dow Engineers, the Marriott Suites near University Lake, and at this time, when all this happened, was getting ready to start a new job at the Residence Inn. Now, this was important because while getting to know each other, Brian told Stephanie that he had owned a guest house in South Africa and had dreams of owning his own hotel one day, which is a good dream. So, he worked in the Marriott. He was getting ready to work at an inn. In Stephanie's mind, he was doing what he had said. He was working on his goals. So at this point, all the police and the investigators have agreed that they're fairly confident that this is Brian, that it's his voice, and now they just got to put in the work and collect the evidence to prove it. So with the videos, thank God that this is definitely a thing of the 21st century. Almost every video and photo out there usually has a timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
The first image was stamped September 4th at 1 a.m. The woman was on the floor in all of this, and thankfully, the carpet she was on was actually familiar. They knew where this carpet was from. It was the carpet of a hotel. Remember who worked at hotels?
He did. The Marriott.
Yes. The last timestamp, which it was a video, showed a date of September 6th. In this video, it shows the woman being put in the back of a black pickup truck. Now, as a reminder, these videos are coming from his phone. The license plate showed up. So
now,
right then and there, they kind of just ran the license plate and the truck returned to Brian.
Brian.
And so now they're like, okay, clearly this is Brian, unless, someone stole his truck. Well, they decided to kind of try to figure out what Brian was doing during this time frame. And he had been checked into the Marriott Hotel between the 2nd and the 4th. So basically, at this point, they have Brian's accent. He was at the hotel that she is clearly at in the photos, and his truck's in the video. I do want to know at this point in time when they are doing the investigation, Brian is actually in North Carolina, I believe it was, a mini vacation with his wife.
Okay.
So they are tracking him. They do know where he's at. And they're waiting for him to come back. So while waiting, October 2nd comes around, and this is only 2 days after they received the SD card. A woman's skeletal remains were found by Alaskan Railroad employees along the tracks near mile 108.5 of the Seward Highway. So after collecting these remains, the investigators were able to cross-reference physical evidence, hotel records, video footage from the hotel, and certain details from the videos and photos. They were able to figure out who the remains belonged to, and they were that of 30-year-old Kathleen Jo Henry, who was struggling with homelessness at the time of her disappearance. Now, 7 days later, on October 9th, Brian returns from his short vacation out of state, and he arrived back in Alaska at Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. Obviously, the police have been tracking him, so the police knew when he was flying in. And so they met him at the airport when he landed.
Oh, what a
He
great
got
homecoming.
off, and they said, "Surprise, motherfucker, you're going to jail." So Brian was taken into custody immediately and taken to the police station for further questioning. Brian took no time in admitting, "Yeah, I killed Kathleen." And then while he was at it, admitted that he had killed a second woman before Kathleen
Oh,
that they
man.
just hadn't found yet. He said the woman he killed was 52-year-old Verona Abchuk. Veronica had been born in 1966, had graduated high school from the Western Alaskan village of Stebbins in 1985. She was a mother and a grandmother at the time of her death, and she was known to have loved getting lunches and shopping with her sisters while enjoying the holidays and treasured every moment that she could with her grandchildren. She was also struggling with homelessness at the time.
So he likes to prey on vulnerable women.
Yep.
Okay.
Brian told the police he had met Veronica while his wife was out of town.
Of course you
He
did.
picked her up in the Anchorage area and took her to his home. He's a piece of shit. Brian told her to shower because he didn't like the odor that was coming from her. She refused, and he got pissed and decided the only way to handle this was by grabbing his pistol and shooting her point blank in the head.
Because she
Simply
wouldn't
because
shower?
she didn't shower. Yeah,
Wow. Why pick her up in the first place then?
because he's a piece of shit. And then he dumped her body just north of the city. Now, you know how people are. Sometimes they admit to crimes they didn't do just because why not? Because they're pieces of shit. So to prove he really did do it, he told them where he dumped the body. Right along Old Glen Highway. Alaskan state troopers were sent to search the area, and just like Brian had said, they found a skull with a bullet hole. The skull was collected, and the coroner was able to collect dental samples. Veronica, who, before going homeless, had been to the dentist plenty and had the records that they needed for comparison. The skull was indeed Veronica Abchuk. For Veronica's family, this would be both devastating news and a breath of fresh air. In February, her family had reported her missing. This had been after she'd already been gone for 7 months. In 2018 and early 2019, like I said, Veronica struggled with homelessness. So it wasn't too strange for the family to not be in contact with her constantly. But 7 months was way too long. And like, especially with her personality, Veronica loved being with her grandkids and took any chance she could. When talking with her family, Veronica's niece, I am probably going to butcher your name. I am so sorry. To talk, Muma? If I am wrong, I apologize. She said about Veronica, she was full of life. I grew up with her as a child. Auntie Veronica was a very sweet lady. She loved her kids. She loved everyone. And I really miss that.
Aww.
Now, as she struggled, and I do want to point out, she lived her own life. They tried to help her, and she was like, I'm going to do things on my own. If this is what I have to go through, this is what I have to go through.
So she's a strong person.
She was very strong-willed. Veronica's family still did what they could to stay in touch while letting Veronica be the strong, independent woman that she was. This included when her sister took a brief job at Bean's Cafe, a small business that provided meals to the homeless, just so she could keep in contact with Veronica a little bit easier. Now, I know they said they hadn't seen her for a while. It was weird, but there was one thing that really set off red flags, and a permanent fund dividend check had come in for Veronica, and she didn't show up to collect. So they're learning about Veronica. They're talking to Brian. At this point, they call Stephanie, who was still on vacation at this point. They explained what they were working with, what Brian was being accused of, and asked her, like, hey, what can you tell us about your husband? Stephanie tells the investigators Brian was a doting man who took care of her, had handcrafted her a ukulele at one point, built her a storage area for all of her garden supplies, and even made a small little greenhouse out of windows. When the murders came out, doubt was casted over him, and she smartly thought maybe Brian was not the man she thought he was, because there were plenty of times where she was out of state and he stayed.
And we know by some of his habits what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So she'd have a right to be questioning.
Now, while speaking with her, the investigators did have to ask her questions that she didn't really like, but I kind of understand where they were coming from. So they asked her if she was pimping for him and bringing girls to him.
Oh.
And it's a hard question, but women have been known to do this.
Yes, they have been known to do
Sometimes
that.
it's easier to get women to come to you if you have another woman there doing it for you. At the end, Stephanie told them that she'd never done anything like that, nor has she ever seen any indicators that Brian was even capable of doing these things. So, on February 22nd, 2024, Brian was tried for his crimes. He was given his sentence in July and would face 226 years in prison.
Good.
Alaska does not have a death penalty, so they just basically gave him as many years as they could literally give him. But this whole thing with Brian doesn't stop there. After Brian is convicted and sent to jail, police release a sketch of a woman who is now being considered a possible third victim. These images came from a phone that police had gotten off of Brian when they arrested him at the airport. So it wasn't the same phone. The images showed a different woman from Kathleen and Veronica on the ground, spattered with blood and dirt, and appeared to either be dead or unconscious. Obviously, people are like, are these new images? And they're like, no, we've had them since we arrested him in 2019. So they're like, why did it take you 5 years to release these images? The police said they had been trying to release these images, but during an ongoing investigation, they usually are not allowed to release similar crime scene photos.
Is that like a real thing?
Sometimes if it's a big enough case, yes, because they don't want copycats coming out.
Okay.
Now, these photos were actually shown during the court proceedings, but it was more so to show the court the kind of pattern of behavior they were working with. Shortly after these photos came out and Brian was given his sentence, a family stepped forward claiming that the sketch that had been released was of their missing family member, Cassandra Boskowski.
Skovsky?
What she said. Cassandra had been reported missing in August of 2019 by her family and was 38 years old. Just like Kathleen and Veronica, Cassandra was also struggling with homelessness at the time of her disappearance. Brian had been taken into custody a month after she disappeared. Cassandra's cousin Marcella told reporters they were raised together like sisters, both close in age. Marcella was actually the one. I'm sorry, this is so cute. Sam's son is just filling her screen with stuffed pandas. It's adorable.
They are just everywhere.
I love it. So Marcella was the one who reported Cassandra missing. When asked about everything, Terry, Cassandra's aunt, explained that their family wanted to put Cassandra to rest. She was missing, and they were confident that she had passed, even without seeing the image. So they're like, look, we need to confirm it's her. We know it's her. We know what our family member looks like. We want to put her to rest. Marcella and the rest of her family were outraged when they learned that the police had had images of the woman that they assumed to be Cassandra for years, but chose not to do anything with them until the trial. They felt like the police just didn't care. Now, police, obviously, they responded to these statements stating during active investigations until they have a full identity, they try not to contact family because they don't want to be wrong and disappoint the family even more. Today, missing or murdered Indigenous persons activists are offering 2 separate $500 rewards to anyone who can give them information leading to the recovery of Cassandra's body and information leading to the arrest of Ian Calhoun, who was a close friend of Brian's. This comes from the fact that prosecutors put out during the trial that they were confident Ian knew about at least one of the murders because they found messages between Brian and Ian talking about Kathleen's murder.
So he had an accomplice.
He did, or at least someone who knew. They didn't go into detail of what was said, just that Kathleen's murder was discussed between the two of them.
Call that accomplice.
Yes. But the crazy part, there is more, is because I found out that they basically could have prevented Kathleen from being killed, the police.
If they would have just tried him for the first one?
Well, no, they found Kathleen and then he admitted to Veronica. But he killed Veronica first and then he killed Kathleen. So, back in 2018, August 14th, a woman by the name of Alicia Youngblood called the Anchorage Crime Stoppers, which is a tip line, and told them how Brian had shown her videos and images of a woman he had shot and sexually assaulted. Alicia told the police how Brian admitted to her that he had killed a prostitute on August 3rd, 2018 at 2 a.m. and that 10 days after being killed, she was still in her apartment. So he killed her in her apartment and then just left her body there. Alicia goes on to tell the police how Brian had violated the victim post-mortem with his fingers in a water bottle and then penetrated her anally post-mortem. And he admitted to Alicia that he didn't do it for sexual gratification. He did it because of the powerful feeling it gave him. Brian even admitted, again, he's talking to Alicia and admitting all this, that he had cut off her bra and panties and just stood over her naked body like a lion over its prey, and then went into detail of how he strangled her.
But she's not his prey. She's a person.
Exactly. Brian told Alicia he put his thumbs on either side of her neck and cut off the blood flow. Now, I was actually able to find the official police report online for this. So the next notes that I'm going to go over, which can be a little graphic, this is a warning now. This next part is a little graphic, nothing like episode 20, but a little graphic. At one point, Brian began fisting the victim And because he wanted to be able to reach his fist up further inside of her, he kicked her in the crotch, trying to break her pelvic bone.
It only goes so far, you dim-witted man.
I don't think he
Jesus.
cares.
No. But still.
Yeah. Alicia described this victim as being a light-skinned black female with very skinny legs and wearing dreadlocks at the time. The carpet in the video that she saw was either blue or green. Brian had apparently picked up the victim from the DMV, drove past a blue apartment building, and stopped at the victim's apartment, which was a fourplex. On September 11th, 2018, the police received data from Facebook regarding a search warrant they had sent on August 30th. The data shows that there was no contact between Alicia and Brian. They were also not able to locate any of the videos through Facebook. And because of this, they basically just closed the case. They're like, well, man, we can't find anything. And we're basically going off her word. Alicia ended up leaving the state, not just the town. She left Alaska. And she left it because she was terrified Brian was going to find out she snitched and kill her. I'm sorry, but if you're just making up something, you don't move out of an entire state.
No.
Especially Alaska. Like,
You
I could
move to
understand
hide.
moving to like Ohio to Indiana or North Carolina to South Carolina, but Alaska to one of the main states,
You're running.
that's a long no. She's fucking running, and you don't run unless you're truly terrified. So, on May 27th, 2019, and I'm going after this a little later because this is not confirmed to have been a victim of Brian, but on May 27th, more human remains were found off of Seward Highway near Hope Cutoff. Remember, Seward Highway was where Kathleen's remains were found. And these remains were sent to the state medical examiner's office for autopsy and identification. They were able to figure out who she was, and she was 27-year-old Shirley Skeek. She had been last seen getting into a black truck outside of Bean's Cafe
I wonder who has one
in
of those.
December of 2018. Remember, Bean's Cafe is where the homeless go to eat.
Mm-hmm.
She was reported missing on January 2nd, and obviously on the 30th was when her remains were identified. And there is the chance, though it has not been confirmed, that she is a victim of Brian, and that means he had 4 victims total.
Probably had more.
Probably. He had Cassandra, Kathleen, Veronica, and now potentially Shirley. So, obviously, as I said, he was tried. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 226 years. In total, Brian was tried for 14 different crimes.
Good.
The 2 big ones were 2 counts of murder in the first, 1 count of sexual assault in the second degree, tampering with physical evidence, and misconduct involving a corpse. The remaining charges were still felonies, but were not as important or big as, obviously, murder. The fun part I learned, which I thought was hilarious, is that Brian is also facing federal charges for unlawfully obtaining a U.S. citizenship. When he was filling out his paperwork, obviously he was able to come here because he got married, but while filling out his official documents, some of the questions were like, have you ever murdered anybody? Have you ever raped anybody? And he said no. Well, at the time of him filling out this document was at the time that he killed Kathleen and Veronica. So all this came out.
Oh.
So he lied. He said no, and he had. So now they're like, oh, on top of all these charges that you're going to literally spend the rest of your life in jail for, here are some federal charges too. So if on the off chance he somehow makes parole and gets out, which I don't even know if he's able to apply for parole, but I know he'd still try, then he'll have to go to another jail for federal crimes. And they'll probably kick him out of the country.
I
Send him
love
back to South Africa.
how he was so racist against,
for all the crimes they commit.
and he's over here doing big shit. Like, come on, man.
He's raping a corpse, killing a woman,
Freaking ridiculous person.
recording without their consent.
I love how you're like recording without their consent. He killed them. That's
Well,
without consent too.
They were alive when he first started recording. Still, but I'm petty like that. Like, I would find the pettiest crimes to charge him with just because I could, and I would do recording without consent.
You looked at me sideways. I'm going to charge you for that.
No, I'm saying if they do like a really big crime.
I know. I'm just making fun of you.
You do like to bully.
I do, because you bully me too.
Called love. So, the very last thing, which I learned about this pretty early on, but I wanted to put it at the end because I want it to stand out. I want all of our listeners and future listeners to just know how much of a piece of shit this guy is. As I quote from episode 20, hit him with multiple buses. Brian admitted to the police that he happily targeted Native women who were struggling with vulnerabilities such as homelessness.
Why? Why we gotta go after Native women? Native people already have so much problems anyways.
They weren't white.
I'm sorry, but get the fuck out of here.
Get hit by a bus. I mean,
oh my gosh.
It's like, and he's like, well, I targeted Native women. Like, bitch, you're going into their fucking territory. You're going into their homes. You are the imposter. Get the fuck out if you don't like them.
That's like the whole U.S.
Go back to fucking South Africa. He probably couldn't actively be racist in South Africa because they just beat him.
Probably.
Go back to South Africa. And that is the memory card murders. I do want to point out, when I was investigating this, so originally I told Sam I wanted to do like a serial killer month, where every episode for the month was about serial killers. I started looking into this case, and all I looked up was like crimes in Alaska, murders in Alaska. And I didn't even know that I was going into a serial killer. I'm reading this about Kathleen and Veronica. I'm like, oh, so sad. Like, I can't believe he did this. He's a piece of shit. And then they're like, and then there was a third person. And then they're like, and then there was potentially a fourth person. I'm like, holy shit, I found a fucking serial killer and didn't even try.
Didn't have to throw the stone very far, did you?
Right? This is a serial killer month, whether we want to or not.
Maybe your computer just knew what you were looking for.
You know, I wonder if the FBI is watching my computer research history.
Dude, yours? Mine has serial killers and ghosts and then medications. Come on. I'm worse than
watching both of us.
Anyways, all right, everybody. That's the memory card murder show. Hang on.
I see an arm. I see another panda. As she's being smothered by her children, as a reminder, we do have socials up and running. We have Facebook, Instagram, and X. We are streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and YouTube.
And I'm back. Please remember to follow us on socials. Dang it. Please remember. You know what? Just follow us on the socials. I give up tonight. If you want to reach us, email me.
If you want to reach out to us, you can message us on any of our social medias, or obviously email us at deadandwrongpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to this very hectic episode. Hopefully it made sense with the way I wrote it. And we will see you next Sunday for another episode full of all things dead. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Now you see why we record late at night. Goodbye.